Good evening and welcome to our free and live workshop on the Water Wipes page. Tonight we are going to be talking about naps and how to make your napping life easier. So hopefully a few of you have found your way over to the Water Wipes page, which is where we're hosting tonight's workshop, to have a chat about naps. So I did promise you that if you showed up tonight, I would have a freebie for you, and there definitely is one. The link is in the description of this video, but it's not going to go anywhere, so hang around and listen to the chat. Ask me your live questions, and then after we've finished chatting, go grab the freebie, and it's all yours. It'll get emailed out to you. So if you are just joining, please say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're listening from. That would be great. And if you have a question about your little one's naps, then please ask it of me in the comments, and I will try to answer as many of those as I can. If I don't get to your question tonight, then I will jump online and type some answers out. So if you're watching this on replay and you've got a question about your little one's naps, please pop it in the comments and I will jump on and type some answers out for you, so you won't be left hanging if you've got a question for me. So who am I? I certainly am not the lovely people from Water Wipes. I am Emma. I'm the owner and founder of Baby Sleep Consultant New Zealand and Australia. So I run the Baby Sleep Consultant company, and I am myself a certified infant and child sleep consultant. I'm also a Happiest Baby on the Block educator, and on top of that I also educate and certify sleep consultants all around the world. So all of that is basically meant to convince you that I definitely know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. Over the years, and I have been doing this for over 6 years now, we have worked with over 20,000 individual clients across New Zealand and Australia and around the world. So I promise you, your napping question that you ask me is probably not going to be out of the ordinary. I probably will have an answer for you. So if you've got a question about naps specifically for your little ones, please pop it in the comments and I will answer those for you tonight. But first off, we're going to have a chat about 3 things. So I want to give you 3 takeaways tonight. So really simple 3 takeaways that you can take away from tonight's live chat and actually start to physically implement tomorrow without too much drama and stress, okay? So we're not going to be focusing on the actual nitty-gritty of sleep training tonight, just more so these 3 takeaways that I can guarantee you are going to make an improvement in the way your little one sleeps. So hang around. There are 3 really important points that I would always cover if I had a one-on-one consultation with you, okay? So grab a pen, maybe a notebook. I am a Kiki K fan myself. And take some notes and see if you can put these into action tomorrow, maybe along with the free downloadable that you can grab from the link. So that's going to give you 18 months of my nap routines, as well as these 3 action points, so you can always remember what it was that I was talking about. And it will kind of help you to remember and understand and solidify that information. Okay, so let's get started. And please, if you're jumping in now, say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're from. If something resonates with you, feel free to hit thumbs up with a love heart. And hey, if you're angry at me, feel free to hit the angry face too. Okay, so number 1, the first action point that I want you to write down and remember is the timing. So the timing of when your child takes a nap is really important. Now, I'm not talking about rigid clock watching, okay? I'm talking about understanding your baby's biological rhythms and their circadian rhythm, okay? So that might sound a little bit kooky, but let's get into understanding it, okay? So in the first 3 months that your baby's born, you might have noticed, or if you've still got a newborn, hi Jess, that they don't really understand the difference between day and night, and we kind of have to teach them. This is because their circadian rhythm or their biological clock is very immature, it hasn't matured yet, and they don't have much of an understanding of the time of day or whether it's day and night. Now, this is slowly maturing, and as we head away from the newborn years and into sort of 4 months plus, this circadian rhythm for babies has matured. And babies have these really distinct periods in the day where their circadian rhythm takes a natural dip, okay? So we call these natural dips a biological sleep window. So wouldn't it be great to know if there are ideal times in the day where your baby is more tired and will easily settle for a nap? So mums, we want to eliminate the stress, right? The stress of trying to get our kids to take a nap. And if we get the timing right, and we have them taking these naps in these biological windows, which are quite big windows, guys, then the settling's easier, it's less stressful, and they're much more likely to take a nice restorative nap. So after 4 months, these two windows are around 9 till 10 in the morning, and then 12 till 2 around lunchtime. Now, that is not to say, guys, that your children must nap from 9 till 10 and 12 till 2. Those are just the windows. So if we can start to aim after 4 months to try to get our child to take a nap closer to 9 o'clock than 8:30, we'll find that the rest of the day sort of starts to fall into place, and that nap becomes a lot more consistent, and it's a lot easier to achieve, okay? So first one being 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, don't stress if your baby's tired at 8:45. Roll with it. It's just a goal, guys. We're just sort of heading for that direction of around 9 o'clock in the morning, okay? And then our second window, which again is quite big, 2-hour window, this is 12 till 2. Now, I'm not saying that your child needs to nap from 12 till 2, although that would be a great nap for a 4-month-old. But if your baby's second nap can start in this window between 12 and 2, that would be awesome. So first window, 9 till 10, depending on how long they sleep for. Next window, 12 till 2, okay? So there's 2 windows that we're aiming for our naps after 4 months to fall in between those times. So there's a couple of reasons why these are really great times. One being that it fits with baby's natural dip in their circadian rhythm, where their body temperature and their hormone levels are all saying, you know, have a nap, have a sleep, okay? And then the second reason being that after a while, so after this 4, 5, 6 month period, getting this nap closer to 9 o'clock in the morning will actually start to prevent things like early morning wake-ups, and also helps us with our lunchtime sleep as well, because often if we stick with an 8:30 sleep, there's a big gap between the morning nap and the lunchtime nap, and it can get really hard to achieve that lunchtime sleep. So aiming for that optimum time in the morning, as close to 9 o'clock as possible. As they get older, it's going to look more like 9:15, 9:30. You know, like I said, it's a window, guys. So if we can just get the naps to start in that window of 9 till 10, and the second window, 12 till 2, that would be awesome. Now, I know lots of you are thinking, my baby has 3 or 4 naps a day. And what about in the afternoon, like 3, 4 o'clock? 100%, they need a nap late afternoon as well. But this time in the day is called, like, it's a non-sleep period, guys, okay? So it's a sort of forbidden sleep zone. We definitely want them to have that little power nap to get through the evening routine. But in terms of an easy nap, it's never going to be an easy nap. So I just always recommend that my clients in the late afternoon do what we call an assisted nap. So take them for a walk in the front pack or the stroller, or feed them to sleep or bounce them to sleep. Whatever's easy. It's just an assisted nap late in the afternoon. It's just a little power nap to kind of get them through that afternoon period and make sure they don't completely lose the plot in the bedtime routine, okay? So if we're aiming for really good daytime naps, we're aiming for a good nap in the morning, a great nap at lunchtime with good timing, and then late afternoon, just do an assisted nap and whatever's easy to get through the evening routine, and that would be my ideal in terms of timing. Question from Jess. So Jess has said, what time is the power nap? And it's often sort of 4:30 in the afternoon, Jess, but it does vary depending on how old your baby is. So I have popped the power naps in my free nap routines, which you can download from the link in the comments after the talk. Don't go there now. 18 months with the free routines, guys. My free nap routines are in those comments. So jump in there after the talk and you can download those all to your inbox. My gift to you for free. So Sarah, great question. What are the biological sleep times for a nearly 1-year-old? Those times don't change, guys. That's the windows until they don't need naps anymore. So 9 till 10 is the morning nap time until they don't need a morning nap, and that's through till 15 or 18 months. And 12 till 2 is the window until they don't need that lunchtime nap, which is anywhere from 2.5 to 3. But like I said, it's a window. So while a 4-month-old's probably ready for sleep around 12, maybe even quarter to 12, a 1-year-old will be happy to stay up until 12:30 or 1 o'clock. But their nap is still falling in that lunchtime window, okay? So that's why those windows don't change, but they are just windows, guys. They're not absolute timings, but my nap routines do outline timings that also fall into those windows. So they kind of hit 2 goals. Ashley says, how long should the assisted nap be for in the afternoon? It really depends how old your little one is, Ashley. So under 3 months, they might need up to an hour late in the afternoon. But after that, it sort of tends to tailor off to almost just being one sleep cycle, 30 minutes. As you get close to 7 or 8 months, it might be 10, 15 minutes. That's all they'll take because they don't really need anything more. And that also kind of leads us into another important aspect of the timing, and that is understanding the timing of when 4 naps drops to 3, which drops to 2, which drops to 1, okay? So newborns will often have 3 to 4 naps a day. That's totally cool and that's fine. We find somewhere around 3 to 4 months they consolidate those 4 naps, into 3 really good naps, aiming for that lunchtime nap to be awesome. And then that 3 naps drops to 2 around 7 or 8 months, and that 2 naps drops to 1 around 15 to 18 months, okay? So those are kind of your nap milestones, which most babies will fall into. If your baby wants to have more naps for longer or less naps faster, you know, it's just, they're kind of just either side of the average. It's not that there's anything wrong with your baby, there's just always outliers, you know, with any kind of averages that we look at. So as long as your baby is meeting all the developmental milestones and they're happy, we don't generally worry about them having too much sleep or not enough sleep. So you'll know when a child's not getting enough sleep. They'll be very cranky. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of the timing side of it. The last timing point that I wanted to touch on, which corresponds to my nap routines, which you can download for free, is the timing of awake windows. So if we don't get their awake windows right, then naps are really hard because children are either overtired or undertired. So understand that in the first 3 months, your child can stay awake for around sort of 60 to 90 minutes at the most. And then from 3 to 4 months onwards, we're looking at sort of more like 90 minutes to 2 hours. From 4 to 6 months, we're heading from 2 hours to probably 2.5 hours awake between naps. We're still on 3 naps a day. And then once we start to head from 3 naps to 2 naps, their awake windows tend to be anywhere from 2.5 hours in the morning and in the middle of the day, and then stretching right out to 4 hours at the end of the day. Okay, so after 8 months, which is generally when we drop to 2 naps, the timing increases from 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the middle of the day. This is their awake windows, guys, not their sleeps. To 4 hours later in the afternoon, okay? So get their awake windows right, and your child might be 15 minutes either side of this. It's perfectly normal. They could even be 30 minutes, but start with the average and move on from there. And when we get this timing right, we're going to avoid them being overtired, which means they're cranky for naps and they're really hard to settle and it's super stressful for us mums, or they're going to be undertired and they're totally going to resist us putting them to bed because they're simply not tired. So when it comes to good naps, timing will make a huge, huge difference, guys. And if you are thinking about doing any kind of sleep training or teaching your kids to self-settle, or you're struggling with naps at all, the first thing you can work on 100% is timing, okay? Get the timing right and naps will be 10 times easier. So please have a think about the timing and how you can change that for your little one. Okay, funny story. I turned on my central heating and then I shut my office door. It's getting really hot in here. Okay, let's go on to point 2 before Emma turns into a little cooked lobster. So the second takeaway point is that you can start to put in place, guys, for easier naps, much easier, is the pre-nap ritual. And I know so many people skip this. We do this amazing sleep ritual before bed in the evening, and we bath or we shower, and then we do a massage, and we go into a dark room for a feed, and then we pop our kids down for a nap, for bedtime. And lo and behold, often they settle really easily in the evening for sleep, right? And that's partially due to it being the end of the day, and with their circadian rhythm, they really want to sleep. But secondary, it's due to this amazing pre-sleep ritual that we have in the evening that we simply don't have during the day a lot of the time. I know so many of my clients will just pick up their babies off the playmat and then simply take them to their room and pop them down for a nap and think, why are they not settling for their sleep, you know? Or maybe you've been out all morning at playgroup and you kind of just rushed in the door and then ran into their room and tried to put them down for a sleep. kids often just won't nap if we do that. So we need to put in place a pre-nap ritual. And this really, for optimal settling, should be 10 to 20 minutes long, okay? And I know that might feel like an inconvenience if you're really busy, but 10 to 20 minutes, and then for a stress-free settle and an easy nap and maybe probably even a longer sleep, give me 10 to 20 minutes to wind down your baby and prep them for sleep, okay? So if it's during the day, I love taking kids outside for a little walk. Give them a little cuddle, you know, in your arms, go for a walk outside. This gives them a lovely burst of serotonin from the light, which is a hormone that is made inside the brain and the gut. That serotonin is then converted into melatonin once you go into their sleep space, which will be nice and dark, okay? Going outside also gives them a bit more sort of input into their, what we call their sympathetic nervous system. And babies actually calm and settle with this input to their sympathetic nervous system, which is often why if you have a very colicky newborn and you suddenly go outside or just a massive change of scenery, they often stop crying and they're kind of all like, what's going on? And that's this input into their sympathetic nervous system. So I love taking babies outside for a cuddle, walk around the garden, you know, go and check your mail 2-3 times a day, and then take them into their sleep space, okay? So into wherever they're going to sleep, whether that's your room or their room. Make sure the sleep environment is prepped for sleep, okay? We're going to talk about that. Hint, that is our point number 3. So take them into their sleep space, and really, I don't really recommend reading books too much to the sort of under ones. If they're really relaxed into it, it's a good idea, but often they actually just prefer for you to give them a nice long cuddle and maybe sing them a song. So a nice, really long, boring cuddle. Maybe some bum padding, singing them a song, that kind of thing. If they're sleeping in a sleeping bag, pop them in their sleeping bag, give them a cuddle. If they're in a swaddle, pop them in the swaddle, give them a swaddle. You know, and the younger they are, the more time they generally need to really settle and calm down and get ready for that sleep. The older they are, the more time they need and the more sort of warning they need they're going to have a sleep. But potentially they're going to respond more to the story and just the warning that they're going to bed as opposed to the full-on contact from you. But you know your child and what they would prefer out of you. But if you're struggling for naps, honestly, struggling to settle for sleeps, double the length of your pre-sleep ritual and see if it makes a difference, because it's just giving them so much more of a wind down and a prep for sleep. Like, you imagine if you were going to take a nap and someone gave you a beautiful head and hand massage before you fell asleep. How much easier would it be to fall asleep? Now, I'm not saying you have to give your baby a hand massage, but it's just that prep in order to then fall asleep for a nap a lot easier. And naps are hard work, guys. They're hard work for us, they're hard work for babies. So the more help you can give them with a beautiful pre-sleep ritual, the easier their nap is going to be. Believe me. Cool. Rochelle says she's been fighting with an 8-month-old, loves books, but he can't be bothered with them before bed. Exactly. They're more of an interactive thing in the babies, Rochelle. So I do prefer them for an awake time thing, but the toddlers certainly like them. But the babies just prefer like a cuddle and a song. And you'll be surprised, you know, I'm probably the worst singer, but my babies still loved when I sang to them before they went to sleep. So pick a song, pick a nursery rhyme, and sing them some songs and have some cuddles. A really important point, guys, is that research actually tells us the more emotionally available a parent is, or a caregiver, before a child goes down for a sleep, the better they sleep and the longer they sleep. So you all know those days where we are rushed off our feet, and even our older children, we kind of just rush them into bed for the night, or we rush our toddlers down for a nap because we've been at Play Central all day, we've rushed to the door, we've gone, just, you need to have a nap, I've got to prep dinner, you know, and they have a really restless and just a crap nap, basically. And yeah, it's basically because we haven't been emotionally available enough before their sleep. Now, I'm not saying that we're always perfect, but if we're struggling with naps, it's great to know that the more emotionally available we can make ourselves in that pre-sleep ritual, the better they're going to sleep, the easier they're going to settle. So how cool and easy is that to do when we're trying to achieve better sleeps? Okay, so that is the pre-sleep ritual. If you don't do one already, I compel you to try and do one and see how well it works with your child and their naps. The last of my 3 points for tonight is your sleep environment. And this is a question that Jess has asked: should the room always be dark for day naps? So you want to get the sleep environment perfect for sleeping, okay? Now, the perfect environment for sleeping, yes, Jess, is dark, day and night. So I know that lots of people will tell you the way to teach your child the difference between day and night is to sleep them in the light during the day and the dark at night. But like I said at the start of the talk, guys, they have understood the difference between day and night, and their circadian rhythm has matured within that first 3 months. So really, I only recommend sleeping them in the light for about the first 3 weeks. And then after that, during the day, I tend to promote a dark sleep environment. As dark as you can possibly get it, with really amazing blackout blinds, because this will help your baby to physiologically feel tired as they produce more melatonin, which is the hormone they need to fall asleep. And this is often called the Dracula hormone because it's only produced in the dark. So if you have a really light sleep environment, your baby's simply not going to physiologically feel tired enough to sleep. And if they wake up after a sleep cycle, which most of our babies do, and they open their eyes and they look around the room, boom, it's bright, it's interactive, and it's immediately blocking their production of sleep hormone. Okay, so as dark as you possibly can is the best sleep environment for naps. Yes, so Jess has been told sleep them in the light to teach them the difference. So now you know. Okay, so I want the room nice and dark. The second thing is, if you're struggling with naps, try some white noise. I don't think I have my shusher on me. It's not on the shelf either. So white noise, if you don't know, is like the sound that your vacuum cleaner makes, or that shh sound that the shusher makes, or it's your radio on static, or your hairdryer going. All of that is white noise. Now, white noise helps babies to actually, it triggers their calming reflex. It helps them to settle to sleep and stay asleep for longer. So if you're struggling with short naps especially, play some white noise for the entire duration that you want them to be asleep. And especially when you first put them down to go to sleep, it will help them to actually settle faster. And it's super easy because you can just turn it on and walk away, which is great. And especially if you have something like an app on your phone, you can just turn it on, or you can use a Bluetooth speaker, play some white noise. I don't recommend that you use your vacuum cleaner or hairdryer because they'll potentially blow up. But that's the kind of sound we're aiming for. Cool. Marley. Murley has said that's what is happening with her naps. Maybe they're short. Okay, so we've got dark, we've got white noise. Third thing is temperature. So the room that you want your child to sleep in should not be as hot as this room is that I'm in right now, because I've turned my heating on and shut the door by accident. If the room's too hot or it's too cold, your baby won't sleep very well. And now I'm going to laugh myself till I'm red in the face, which is from laughing as opposed to how hot my room is. So during the summer, we need to have things like a fan going if it's too hot. We need to use things like merino or cotton, which is going to help them breathe when they're sleeping, like their temperature, not their lungs. And in the winter, if it gets too cold, then naps are going to be really hard as well, so you might need a little heater going in the winter. Ideally, in the winter, we want to try and keep their room between 16 and 18 degrees if we can. Much colder than that, we're going to struggle with the sleep both day and night, okay? So it's better to keep the room around 16 to 18 degrees and not have to use like 17 layers on their bed to keep them warm. Pro tip, first night that I turned the heater on for my first baby girl about 12 years ago, she slept through the night. So yeah, she was just freezing. That's why she wasn't sleeping. But hey, we all make mistakes and we learn from it. So nice dark room, try some white noise and get the temperature right. Now, I know when we talk about sleep environment, then people think, hey, how am I ever going to get my baby to take a nap not at home if this is the only way that they will sleep? And you can make the ideal sleep environment away from home really easily, guys. Snooze shades go over your buggies if you're out walking. If you've got like an Ergo front pack or something and they're sleeping on your chest, they have the little hood that you simply clip over them, which makes it nice and dark for sleep. If you are going to your mum's house or something, you can buy portable blackout blinds that they stick up. You can even buy the snooze shades that go over the porta cots and black them out, which are really safe and breathable. You can get white noise on your phone, your iPhone or your Android, so that's always portable and easy to play. I can't recommend a portable fan if you're out and it's too hot, but that's not usually an issue. Usually it's the darkness and the white noise that we're worried about. So I don't think that having the extra hassle of having to possibly make a good sleep environment while you're out is so much of a negative that I wouldn't do it at home, because often I will go and see a client and do a home consultation in your home, and by simply changing the sleep environment, working on better timing and introducing a really good pre-sleep ritual, children simply self-settle and take naps. So these 3 things, guys, are really, really powerful when it comes to sorting out your child's naps. I promise you, this is the kind of advice that people end up paying us for. Okay, so that's my 3 things tonight, guys. Timing, pre-nap ritual, and sort out the sleep environment that your child is sleeping in during the day. Now, if you want the free download from that, including my 18 months worth of free nap routines, then just click the link, the bit.ly link that you can see in the description of the video, and head on over, chuck in your email address, and I will send that straight out to you. That's yours to keep forever, free. If you think your friends need it, tag them in this video so they can jump on and grab them too. Okay, let me answer some of your questions. What if they wake up too early and they're ready for bed around 8? Rochelle. Great question, Rochelle. I'll tell you my secret to that. I use what's called a bridging nap. Now, a bridging nap is this tiny little 10-15 minute nap which bridges the time from an early wake up to a scheduled nap time. So early wake up, say 5:30, God forbid, and we're aiming for a 9 o'clock nap because we've got a 5-month-old. No way can they last from 5:30 till 9. So I offer them a bridging nap around 7:30 of like 15 minutes. I don't offer them a full sleep cycle, which is 45 minutes or anywhere close to that, because I find that's too restorative and they simply won't go back to sleep at 9 o'clock in the morning. I also don't want to offer them that much sleep at 7:30 in the morning because their body sees it as a continuation of their nighttime sleep and it encourages the 5:30 wake up, which I don't want. So I offer them a bridging sleep, which bridges the early wake up and the scheduled nap time, whilst also working on the early wake up so this doesn't become a permanent habit. Marilee, is it okay to have the early day naps as assisted naps also? Yes, so you can always have assisted naps if you want. If you always want to take them for a walk or feed them to sleep or bounce them to sleep, 100%, you can keep doing that during the day. That's totally fine. The point I was making about the power nap in the afternoon was just that if your goal was to work on self-settling, don't stress about that late afternoon nap. With self-settling, it's not worth it. Just do an assisted nap late in the afternoon. But of course, you can always do assisted naps, especially with newborns. Kylie says, my 5-week-old feeds for 40 to 60 minutes at a time, which makes doing nappy changes baths a challenge with an age-appropriate awake window. Yeah. What are your tips to manage this? Kylie, number 1 tip, time. As your baby gets older, she will tolerate more awake time, I promise you. So right now, you know, your bath might be literally 2 minutes in the evening, in and out. And you can skip it, you know. They're 5 weeks old. They won't care. So if you need to skip it, skip it. But literally, I would feed, nappy change, feed, swaddle, top up and put to bed. And that's their awake time. And I distinctly remember with my first newborn thinking, okay, so this is my life now. A feed takes an hour and I'm feeding 6 times a day. That's 6 hours a day sitting on the couch. What the heck am I going to do for the rest of my life? But it changes, it totally changes. They get really efficient at feeding, and you'll be down to sort of 10-15 minutes in no time, and their awake windows increase. So it's not forever. So in this time, download some ebooks, relish the quiet time. Denise, hi Emma, my 9-week-old, 4 weeks corrected, keeps waking every 20 to 30 minutes from his naps, and will only sleep when on us. That's pretty common, Denise, at this age. I would make sure that you're using a really snug swaddle like a miracle blanket, which will help his arms stay nice and snug against his body and kind of replicate that feeling of being inside you. Definitely try some white noise, which will also help him prolong his sleep. And then I would probably work on some settling in the bassinet if you can. So rocking or patting, that kind of thing. When he wakes after 20 minutes, try and get him back to sleep in his bassinet if you can. If you want some more help on that, I will pop the link in here for my newborn digital program, which is an online sleep program which you can download. Those are available, and they have all of my sort of settling strategies for all of the different ages and working on short naps and that kind of thing in there. The other thing with waking every 20 to 30 minutes can be wind, especially if it's closer to the 10 to 20 minute time, so make sure you're getting lots of wind up before sleep. And often newborns as well will settle better on their sides in their bassinets, so just roll them to their side to settle them, but then roll them back once they're asleep. Don't leave them on their side in the bassinet. Yeah, but again, 4 weeks corrected is the age that I would go off for your baby, and that's very young, so they'll get better over time. Rhiannon, my 6.5 something, sleep amazing at home, self-settle and resettle, has a 2-hour nap. This sounds awesome. But going out, he will only do 25 minutes in the pram or car. We never go out. Rhiannon, if it's a lunchtime sleep that only becomes 25 minutes because you're out, or actually let's start with the morning sleep. If the morning sleep's only 25 minutes, you might find that you could offer a bridging nap. So an extra nap around 10:30 to help you get through to lunchtime without him being overtired. If it's a lunchtime nap that's really short because you're out and about, then I would probably offer another 25 minutes sleep at say anywhere from 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So that's how you would kind of combat the overtiredness while you're out, is just offer more of those short sleeps. And then try to just be home most days for the lunchtime sleep, but feel free to mess around with the morning nap and the afternoon nap and go out all morning and afternoon. You won't find it's a problem. Louise, my 6-month-old is an epic cat napper, an early starter, and struggles to resettle if she wakes from a nap. These things are often all linked together, Louise. She naps about 3 to 4 times a day for about 30 minutes each time. So Louise, when babies do a 30-minute sleep, it's often because they're so overtired they're not actually doing a full sleep cycle. And the way to get on top of that is usually to start sorting out the night sleep and some self-settling during the day so the baby can self-settle and then resettle into a longer nap during the day. Her awake time is around 2.5 hours. She usually wakes from naps happy. So if she wakes from naps happy, 2 things to consider. Is she only happy because you rush into the room? If that's the case, she's probably still tired. But if you stay out and she's still happy, then I would consider, is the room dark enough? Because she's potentially waking up and getting distracted by her surroundings. And does she need her awake time extended? So if it's always 2 hours and she just wakes up cooing in the dark, then she probably needs her awake time extended so that she's tired enough to go back to sleep. But I do find that that cycle of early wake-ups, short naps, etc., is usually resolved with some self-settling during the day. So if you want some help with that, I will pop the link up again if you want to have a look at our online sleep program for that. Taylor, my 16-month-old hardly naps during the day. This is bad. And what tips other than letting him cry it out do you have? So Taylor, ideally a 16-month-old would have 1 to 2 naps a day. If you're struggling with naps, I would probably just aim for 1. At this age, it's probably not worth the hassle of trying to reinstate 2 naps. So just aim for 1 around lunchtime. And 16-month-olds do tend to start to really resist us settling them to sleep. So if you're trying to fully assist bubs to sleep with like feeding or bouncing or holding, it might be that they reach the age where they're kind of like kicking you or, and I don't mean like kung fu, but you know, when you hold them and they kind of tend to repel themselves off you and they're kind of looking for a bit more space to fall asleep. So you definitely don't have to let them cry it out, but I think you will have to work on allowing him to independently settle, which will mean popping him in his cot and providing him with lots of support while he falls asleep, but definitely not assisting him to sleep. I think that's probably why he's resisting the sleep so much. And then apart from that, I would, if you just joined us, watch the replay of this video because I have talked about 3 important things which will probably help you with your naps, and they are also available in the free download, which is in the link to the description of this video. Okay, it's getting really hot in here. Why is nobody hitting the laugh face? My 12-week, Rebecca said my 12-week-old naps maximum 40 minutes, falls asleep while feeding and doesn't sleep longer than 2 hours at night. Oh, Rebecca, I bet you are exhausted. I would first probably try and move away the feeds from the from the naps. So try to feed bubs when they are in their awake time, which I know gets really hard if they cat nap, right? Because 40 minutes sleep and then they're not really hungry when they wake up. By the time they are hungry, they're due for a sleep. What do? They end up falling asleep feeding. So it is a really tough cycle. Glad to see some people are laughing at my expense. So yeah, that is a tough cycle to try to break or change. I would potentially start with your nights, to be honest, Rebecca, and work on settling at night without feeding to get some longer periods of sleep at night, because then I feel like your baby won't be quite so tired during the day, and that will have a natural positive flow and kick on into better day results for you. Apart from that, I would definitely download the free nap routines, which are in the bit.ly link in the description to this video, because I think even just working with a better nap routine will help you. And if you need to use a bridging nap to try to achieve those nap times, give that a whirl for a week as well, because that'll help you with optimum timing, which will begin to help you with longer naps. So it's kind of a big cycle. If you want some one-on-one help with that, pop over to Baby Sleep Consultant and flick me a message, because you might need some one-on-one help with that. Lydia, I've just joined in. My boy is almost 10 months. He sleeps 3 to 4 naps a day and won't fall asleep without being on the boob at night. So Lydia, that's essentially changing a feed to sleep association, and that is definitely possible, but and it's actually really achievable, but I can't explain to you in 5 minutes how to do it. So I would say watch this video from the start, because the 3 points we'll post it live on the wall later on, but the 3 points I've covered tonight will help you. But then there is going to have to be some sleep coaching, Lydia, to change that feed to sleep association. So I'll post some links for you, but that is definitely sort of more like a 1 to 2 week process. Amy, my 11-week-old will sleep 3 to 4 hours that's awesome, during the day. If we're out and about, in the shops, but at home, we'll get a maximum of 30 minutes. So Amy, try to replicate what's going on out and about. It's probably the white noise. When you're out and about, things are quite noisy and busy. But also I think it's probably the motion. So if your baby likes motion, you can kind of create that motion with them by patting their bum or their back in the bassinet, or jiggling the bassinet or the cot. Create similar motion to when you're out and about, and helps them learn to settle in their bassinets at home. But it definitely will take a little bit of work to achieve that. So after the 30 minutes, you have to work on resettling to teach them to take a better sleep at home. But that's quite a common scenario. I hear you. I used to go for a 2-hour walk after my coffee group. It was the only way my baby would take a nap, until I learned how to resolve that issue. Okay, I've got time for a couple more questions if anyone has anything. I'm just going to scroll back through here, because I have missed some questions. Meantime, sweating it out in my office with the central heating going and the door shut. Okay, Rochelle, wide awake all evening. How to get an 8-week-old to bed earlier. Rochelle, loaded question. We're talking about naps tonight, otherwise I would love to answer that for you. But I will pop up a link for you, Rochelle. Rachel, not even Rochelle, it's Rachel, sorry. Kayla, how loud do you play white noise? Great question. So, as loud as your vacuum cleaner, unless you have a really quiet vacuum cleaner like I do. So if you have a loud vacuum cleaner, as loud as your vacuum cleaner. Otherwise, you know when you're in the shower, you're washing your hair and you cannot hear your baby crying, but you think you hear phantom baby crying, that level of noise is what we're aiming for in terms of the white noise if a baby is crying. So if they're crying and upset, the white noise has to be louder than their cry, or they can't hear it and they focus on their own cry. So if they're upset and crying, quite loud. If they are just having a sleep, then it's more just like medium loud. And I could tell you the level in decibels, but nobody has a decibel reader, so that's not really relevant. So as loud as your shower when you're washing your hair if they're crying, and then turn it down a smidgen for their whole nap. It's more like a background noise, but definitely louder than like the beautician plays for you. You know, that whale music that they play. That's not really white noise level. You are welcome, Kayla. Sorry, I have 2 threads of questions going. Clearly I'm getting severely dehydrated by the heater in this room. Ooh. Okay, who are you, Nicole? It's really hard to read. My Babs is 7 months old and she's awesome with her daytime naps, exactly as you mentioned. Ooh, high five. But night times are a disaster. It's like she fights to go to sleep. Nicole, maybe she needs her last nap of the day shortened a little bit. Maybe trim that down to like 15 minutes and see if that helps with your evening sleep. The other thing to consider is, and Nicole, my nap routines, no, they don't cover this, but awake time from the last nap of the day, ending whether it's nap 2 or 3, until bedtime. If it's too long or too short, either way, evening settling is going to be a disaster. The way you can tell if it's too long is that if you struggle to settle your baby and then when you finally do settle your baby, they wake 45 minutes later, or they wake at 9 p.m, they went to bed overtired, shorter than the time that you have them awake from last nap until bedtime. If they struggle to go to sleep and they put up a fuss but then they have a great sleep for 3 or 4 hours, then it was probably the awake time was too short, so you could lengthen it a little bit. Okay, so those are some signs to have a look for if you're fighting your child with their evening sleep. But I do think at 7 months, if you're doing a third nap, it might need to be shortened. It could be putting baby off settling in the evening. Okay, Kayla, how many times do you try to get your baby to self-settle for their nap before you give up and settle them to sleep for their nap? At the moment, he wakes immediately when I put him down and he screams himself into a state. Kayla, there's 2 Kaylas here. Oh, this is Kyla, K-Y-L-A, Kyla. I'm so sorry. How old, Kyla? If they're old enough, so we're talking 6 to 12 months, then I was working on self-settling, then you could work on that potentially for 40 to 60 minutes before cancelling the nap. But if they're younger than that and they're like a newborn, then it's a different scenario, you know, so we're trying to settle them in the bassinet, maybe with some padding or rocking or that kind of thing. If they're not settling, we're picking them up and cuddling them and trying to get them settled and then sneaking them back into the bassinet. So it depends how old they are. But often if they wake immediately when you put them down and scream, and your goal was for them to go down asleep and stay asleep, then you probably, he's 9 weeks, you probably needed to hold him for longer. So I have talked about the pre-sleep ritual in the talk tonight, Kyla, and I would probably extend out how long you're doing that for. So settle Bubs in your arms for more like 10 to 20 minutes and then sneak them into the bassinet. And here's a top tip for you. If you have settled your baby to sleep in your arms, so they're fully asleep, and you want to sneak them into the bassinet or the cot, sneak them in slowly, but sneak them in feet first. So their feet hit the bassinet first, and then slowly roll them onto their side, and then slowly onto their back. Often us mums kind of are holding our baby like this, and then we tend to just boom, lie them down in the bassinet or the cot flat onto their back. And even if they're swaddled, that motion from here to flat on their back triggers their startle reflex and they wake up. So if you're holding them and they're fast asleep and you want to sneak them in there, sneak them in slowly, feet first, and then onto their side, and then slowly wiggle them onto their back. And then even I would leave my hands on them for a few minutes, just get a little bit of that pressure and that touch, so they still kind of think they're in my arms, and see if they'll drift off to sleep and stay asleep. So that's kind of how I sneak them in if I've held them to sleep. Okay, cool. It is getting really hot in here, guys, so I am going to have to love you and leave you. But if you are watching this on replay, ask me your questions in the comments below and I will jump online and answer them for you and give you some links to some more information. If you want to grab the free download for tonight, which has got all the information I talked about, plus 18 months worth of free nap routines from me, then just click the bit.ly link in the description of this video, jump in there, enter your email address, and I will email that straight out to you. If you've got a friend who should be watching this, tag them in the comments and they can get some help too. I can answer their questions and they can get some free advice. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, and thanks to Water Wipes for hosting. Hopefully you guys are all Water Wipes fans as well, and I will see you on another Wednesday workshop night. Thanks, guys.